Welcome to our quick start guide for Frost Mage in Mist of Pandaria. This video is going to cover everything that you need to know for setting up your character, which includes the best race, the best talents, glyphs, gear, professions, macros, and so much more. But first, let's talk about what's new and what to expect from your spec in PvP. Now, if you're committed to Frost Mage, you are in luck, as this is arguably the best spec in the entire game and could be one of the strongest variations of any spec ever in PvP. It has literally got everything, including punchy, instant burst, excellent cross CC thanks to deep freeze and blanket CS, on top of a pretty solid defensive kit as well. Thanks to a reworked talent tree, all mage specs get access to Presence of Mind, plus a brand new defensive with Temporal Shield, and even some extra damage thanks to Living Bomb. Mop is also the expansion to introduce Alter Time, which was much stronger in its original form, as it even preserved buffs like Fingers of Frost, Brain Freeze, and any trinket procs, allowing this ability to be used offensively for massive damage. But before we start with all that, this is just the first part in our Mist of Pandaria series. Our complete courses, including healing, damage, and playstyle guides, they are all available exclusively at skillcap.com. For the past few months, we've been working alongside the best and the most dedicated players ever in Mist of Pandaria. And right now, you can get ahead of 90% of players instantly thanks to our revamped courses, which teach you literally everything you need to know. And that's why we continue to offer a 400 rating gain guarantee across all of our games. So whether you want to experience Mop Classic or hop into retail, be sure to click the discount link below in order to get started. But for now, let's get back to the video. Alright, so it is time to make the very first decision before you even step foot into the game. Picking your race. Racials, they matter a lot in Classic, and Mop is no different. Now, if you plan on playing Alliance, then Human is going to be best without question. In fact, for many DPS, this will be the best race in the entire game. Why is that? Well, thanks to the Will to Survive racial, humans are able to wear 2 damage trinkets, which is a really big deal, since trinket procs and effects represent a massive power spike. Now, if you want to play Horde, Orc is definitely going to be your best option here. Hardiness is arguably the best racial passive in the game, offering 15% stun reduction, which even stacks with similar effects. Not to mention Blood Fury, which is also a huge power spike, acting as a pseudo-on-use trinket. Now, in the event you really don't want to play Orc, then Undead is still a viable alternative. Will of the Forsaken is more relevant in Mop given the popularity of Warriors and Warlocks. Also, come on man, the casting animations, they're worth it on their own, right? But now, let's talk about talents and glyphs, which both received an overhaul going into the expansion and are now much more streamlined. The first row of talents is more flexible than most people realize here. Presence of Mind is a good talent to soft lock and is the right choice in comps where you're going to win through setups. It can be difficult to land polymorphs in Mop, especially with the popularity of Resto Druids, and Palm definitely makes things easier. Now with that said, don't sleep on Blazing Speed either. This is a great defensive option, especially into melee cleaves when your team is less reliant on CC setups to win. Overall, melee have less mobility in Mop compared to other expansions, and this can definitely give you an edge. Moving on to the next row, all 3 talents are good in specific context. Now while it might seem a little bit strange, we do recommend soft locking Flame Glow for 3v3. Its damage reduction might not seem like much, but it applies to every single attack you take, which quickly adds up over the course of a game against teams with high sustain damage. Now with that in mind, Temporal Shield can be picked up into burstier, CC-heavy 3v3 comps. It can be pressed while stunned, converting damage into a hot and even reducing damage taken by 15% in the process. Finally, Ice Barrier does have its value in 2v2 or even in duels when you don't have the support of a healer. We also have options for our level 45 talents. Ring of Frost should be your default pick though, especially into Resto Druids since it allows you to deep palm ring. And with that said, Frostjaw is definitely playable into other healers and can be used to cross CC or set up deep freezes. This talent is played mostly by fire mages, but most of the time you're going to be playing Ring of Frost. Finally, Ice Ward can be good into double melee teams. It can be put on friendly players, which makes it great when you're playing with a less mobile caster in order to help them kite. Now, fortunately, the rest of our talents are pretty dang straightforward. We're always going to pick Cold Snap since it's going to give us an extra ice block and will even heal us for 30% of our HP. And for the next row, we're always going to play Living Bomb. Not only does it give us a passive source of damage on a separate spell school, but we can even min-max it a lot with Shatter. which you could learn more about in our Mage course after this. For our final row, we're always going to play Enchanter's Ward. This is going to provide us with a small shield, but more importantly can give us a lot of bonus spell damage if fully absorbed and 6% extra spell damage passively. Now, as far as glyphs are concerned, let's break things down into a few categories here. The only hard-locked choice is Glyph of Armors, which we're going to pick for the added defensive bonus for every shield. It means Molten Armor gives 16% physical damage reduction, and Mage Armor reduces magic debuff durations by 35%, while making it much easier to swap between armors mid-game. We're then going to soft-lock Glyph of Polymorph, which removes all dots on poly targets. We can drop this if we don't have a dot class on our team. Now, we should also soft-lock Glyph of Deep Freeze. This reduces the duration of Deep, but completely removes its GCD, allowing you to seamlessly cross CC. Now, it's also technically better for damage for ourselves if we're going to be deeping the kill target. So we then have a set of flexible glyphs, including Ice Block, which we can choose as an aggressive option into casters. It causes Ice Block to provide 3 seconds of spell immunity when it ends, which can be snapshotted with Alter Time for 6 total seconds of immunity. Glyph of Water Elemental is a good option specifically against melee cleaves or dot classes. These days, people love to kill pets and mob, and keeping your Water Elemental alive is really going to be important. Finally, if you're playing double DPS 2v2, you should definitely play with Glyph of Evocation, as this is going to make it heal for 60% of your total HP. But now it's time to move on to the exciting bit of this course, gearing your character. Now, luckily, there is absolutely no PvE involved here. First, though, let's talk about our stat priority, which will affect the pieces that we buy and how we gem and enchant them. Intellect is the most important stat by far, as it's going to affect our damage the most. But with that in mind, we need to make sure we're getting 6% hit so our spells don't miss. Then we're going to aim for up to 15% critical strike. Now, this might be hard to do in the earlier seasons, but by getting 15%, we can guarantee our spells always crit with Shatter as long as we have Molten Armor and Arcane Intellect up. Now, following this, we're going to want as much haste as humanly possible, as it makes the game feel so much smoother, and by getting at least 12.5% haste, we're going to get an extra tick on our Living Bomb too. And then Mastery is going to be the lowest on our priority. Mob also introduces 2 new stats, PvP Resilience, which reduces damage taken from enemy players, and PvP Power, which increases healing and your damage done to other players. Both of these stats occur naturally on PvP gear and are the reason why all of your best in-slot gear is going to be from PvP. And while they are important, you really don't need to worry about them when gearing. Now, like most expansions, you're going to start by collecting full Honor gear while gradually farming Conquest gear every week to replace each slot with higher item level epics. Now, luckily, the stats on items offered in each slot are exactly the same. So with that in mind, let's break down our BIS lists. For our main pieces, we're going to be wearing all 5 pieces of the Silk set. Then for our off pieces, we're going to follow our stat priority, aiming to get gear with crit and haste, and avoiding Mastery while also getting 6% hit. This means getting the Cloak of Cruelty, the Bracers and Belt of Accuracy, Neck and Boots of Alacrity, and then a Ring of Cruelty and Accuracy. For our weapon, we're going to get the Spellblade Dagger and in-game Offhand. You're going to wear 2 PvP trinkets no matter what because of their Resilience set bonus. Now, as a human, we're going to get both Intellect damage trinkets. And as an Orc, we're going to get the Insignia proc trinket and then the PvP medallion with crit. Luckily, enchants are pretty streamlined in Mob. For our weapon and offhand, we're going to use Jade Spirit and Major Intellect. Then, for our high-ticket enchants, we're going to get the Greater Crane Wing inscription on our shoulders, and then the Greater Cerulean Spell Threat on our legs. Then, going through our minor enchants, unless we're a tailor, we're going to get Superior Intellect on our cloak, and no matter what, we'll get Glorious Stats on our chest, and Super Intellect on our bracers. Then for our gloves, we're going to go with Greater Haste. And finally, for our boots, we recommend Pandarian Step for extra movement speed and increased mastery. Then for our gems, we're going to aim to match each socket as long as we get an intellect bonus. For red slots, always use Brilliant Primordial Rubies. Then, to match yellow sockets, get Reckless Vermilion Onyx. For blue sockets, we're going to go Mysterious Imperial Amethyst or Veiled Imperial Amethyst if we're below hit cap. Then for our meta gem, we're going to get the Burning Primal Diamond for maximum damage. And don't forget here, you get an extra prismatic socket in your belt with the Living Steel Belt Buckle. So once you have everything geared and enchanted, be sure to head over to the Reforger to fine-tune your stats. Now, as far as reforging is concerned, we're going to simply stick to our stat priority, aiming to get hit cap if needed, and prioritizing moving mastery into haste or crit. Now, just like other classic expansions, professions do matter in Mist of Pandaria. As a DPS, there are two distinct routes you can take here, but no matter what, you should always get tailoring if possible. Tailoring offers a unique cloak enchant that can proc an extra 2,000 intellect for 15 seconds, which is absurdly strong. Then for your first route, you can choose engineering for the Synapse Springs Glove enchant, which is an on-use effect that gives extra main stat for 10 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown. The other route is to go for raw stats, picking up other non-gathering profession for a boost to our main stat. Now, do note that all professions offer the same static bonus to main stats. Just avoid any gathering professions. Now, normally we would give you some macros here, but to make things even easier, we have got everything you need on our article site. There you can copy and paste each macro one by one instead of needing to manually type in-game. But before we go, you really don't want to miss this opportunity to get a massive head start on the competition with our 400 rating gain guarantee. Our courses and arena commentaries, they literally have everything you need to help you reach your goals. Regardless of how easy or how hard your class is to play, we've got you covered here. So head on over to skillcap.com and sign up today to start your journey to Gladiator.